Hi, Sparkles. Welcome back to Intuitive Wisdom. This is episode 201, and today I'm thrilled to share a conversation with Marijke McCandless, a presence coach, award-winning author, and playfulness instigator whose work invites us to strip away mental clutter and connect with the raw aliveness of now. Marijke's book, Naked in the Now, Juicy Practices for Getting Present, recently won the grand prize at the Chanticleer 2024 Mind and Spirit Awards. Her embodied approach to mindfulness brings curiosity, vulnerability, and authenticity to the forefront. In this episode, we explore what it truly means to be present and quote-unquote naked in the now, how curiosity awakens vitality and helps us loosen that grip of old conditioning, the power of writing, not just for growth, but for healing and self-discovery, and how better questions, not better answers, can open new pathways in life. I've personally joined Marijke's current writing group, and I'm loving the experience. Her practices are down to earth, refreshing, and transformative. Here we go. Welcome to Intuitive Wisdom, a space where insight meets energy and intuition leads the way. I'm K. Margaret Solorio, author, Angel Reiki Master, biotech graduate, and a guide for those seeking alignment in their home and life. Whether you're navigating change, clearing emotional clutter, or simply craving clarity, Intuitive Wisdom invites you to slow down, tune in, and rise into your authentic self. New episodes weekly. Come home to your own knowing. All right, Sparkles, quick announcements before we get to the fantastic conversation. Just so you know what's up. First, have you taken my free quiz yet? It's called Is Your Home Supporting Your Expansion? It only takes a few minutes and it kind of just gets you an introduction into home energy and it gives you clear insight on how your space may be shaping your energy and where you can shift things. You can find that at deliciousease.com/quiz. And if your space feels heavy or stuck or just a little off, then my home frequency reset service is a remote, intuitive, energetic refresh designed to bring your home back into harmony with you. Perfect if you're craving a fresh start or deeper alignment with your vision. So you can also find that at the website, deliciousease.com. And my book, Make Ease Your Vibe, is now available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle versions. It's packed with practical strategies for shifting your energy, managing your time, and raising your daily vibration. So time, energy, mindset. And I made exclusive chapter bonuses, so bonuses for each chapter, and you can get access to those after you purchase your copy, also through my website. And last but not least, I am now a teacher on Insight Timer. So if you use the app to find music or meditations, I am so excited to share this with you. You can now find my guided meditations and energy resets, intuitive tools, lots of good stuff on this free app. And it's a pretty amazing space with millions of listeners worldwide. So I hope you will follow me and join me there as well. All right, let's get to the interview. Marijke, thank you again for joining me. I'm so excited that you're here. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I love being here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, gladly. Well, you may know on this podcast, we like to explore what it means to live in alignment with your energy and how trusting your intuitive wisdom can transform your inner and your outer world. And I was curious, how about for you, when the time that your intuition nudged you to doing something that was unexpected, but that really worked out?
You know, that's such a great question because I was thinking about this a little bit, and I was thinking of all the different ways that intuition has nudged me in a certain direction and how it shows up and what it really feels like. And it's funny how it can show up as this little tiny nudge, sort of almost like a leaning, or it can show up almost like with words that you didn't really think up, but they're just there in your mind. And I thought, actually, a really good example is the intuitive leap it really took for me to write my book called Naked in the Now, Juicy Practices for Getting Present, because and those words literally just came to me like that. But it felt, from my mind's perspective or from society's perspective, it felt like a pretty daring leap to bundle nakedness in with mindfulness, like with sacred spirituality or something. And But the nudge was that mindfulness can be sort of like a little bit austere, a little bit, you have to be too perfect at it. And I wanted to bring in this more playful, kind of embodied approach where, more like what happens when you're falling in love than when you go and sit, in a perfect posture for 6 hours.
That's a really excellent way of describing it. It makes so much sense. And I feel that way a lot about meditation, which goes with mindfulness, but that a lot of times when I started learning about meditation, it was, and when I first got into a regular practice, like I had to have my certain setup and my certain music and my certain this. And then I realized I'm kind of missing the point. If it takes all those tools for me to reach the, flow state. So yeah, that's a really good point. It's kind of stripping it all back and saying, well, wait.
What is actually happening here? What is mindfulness? And mindfulness, in another way, it's falling in love with what's right in front of you, is another way of thinking of it. Anyway.
Yeah. And it almost also sounds like falling in love with yourself, because I think there could be so much negative self-talk that if you love yourself enough to recognize that, then you can not judge yourself for that and get past it instead of getting stuck.
For sure.
Well, I want to talk more about your book. I noticed that it includes practices to arouse your curiosity. And so I was wondering how you see curiosity helping us connect with our vitality.
Let's see. So I think curiosity first of all, you have to kind of get into the mindset of the type of curiosity that I'm talking about, because there can be sort of like this type of curiosity, which is like spying on another person or something. It's got like this funny little negative kind of feeling to it. But I'm talking about the kind of curiosity that encourages us to examine our own conditioning, the kind of curiosity that dissolves our resistance to doing something new or to looking at something in a new way. Curiosity has the power to free us from the grip of what we think we know, and to put us in a state of, wow, I don't really know what I know about this situation. So if I'm open and paying attention, if I have this, I kind of call it like the titillation of curiosity, the sort of aspect to it, we kind of enliven a spirit of wonder to what might be there. But it also, we were just talking about a little tiny bit about the capacity and the inclination that many of us have for negative self-talk. It can also interrupt our negative thinking, because often we get stuck in a spiral of negative thoughts, whatever they're about, whether they're about ourselves or the world or somebody else or whatever. Curiosity can invite us to consider what else is here other than our thoughts. So this is a very specific way of using curiosity, but it can direct our attention back to our embodied experience of the moment. So what am I seeing? What am I feeling? What am I tasting, touching? And that can interrupt those negative spirals. But you got to be a little bit curious about it, because our mind is so powerful. It will just take all of our focus, all of our attention. So,
I love that. And even as you're speaking, my ego is saying, uncomfortable, uncomfortable, uncomfortable. It's like it reminded me, when you learn a new language, and as an adult, not as a kid, because kids are so much better at just going for it. But you have like your ego going, oh, you're going to look stupid. Oh, you're going to embarrass yourself. Oh, you're going to do this. And you just progress so slowly because you don't use it as much as you should. It feels like that. Like curiosity is to let your ego step aside and go, well, let's see what happens. I trust it will be great. Or who knows? That's okay. I'm just exploring. Whereas and for me, I've trained as a scientist first. So that curiosity was a skill. Like if you can observe, then you have the opportunity to see what might be next, or what this might lead to, or understand that you are, yeah, creating experiences, but as an observer who goes, oh, maybe I can understand it if I try it this way.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you brought up science because, in a very real way, each of us gets to be an investigative scientist about who we are, what's going on, what's life really about. What if I took away all of even my beloved values, even my beloved truths? What am I experiencing right now? What's actually before me in my experience? Because often, even our beloved conditioning no longer serves us in some way. It stops us from engaging in the world in a fresh way with wonder, because we know what the world's all about, or that's what our mind tells us. So we lose the capacity to wonder and to I don't know, just be our own scientist. And
Yeah, I love
that's
that.
the cool thing about mindfulness too, is I always say, don't believe anything I say. Go trust it, Joe. Go try it out for yourself. Go see what happens if I slow down and I do this 10-minute practice Marijke suggested. You get to be the arbiter of your own experience.
Yes. That gives me a lot to think about. But I'm going to move on to my next question while I do. You talk in your book too about the power of vulnerability and authenticity.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes in society, those vulnerability and authenticity are almost what's the right word, shown to us as opposites of power. So I was curious what you see as the power in vulnerability and authenticity.
Yeah. I mean, I was in the corporate world too. I rose up as VP of a a VP of corporate communications of a high technology center. So I'm well versed with the perception that we need to appear strong, and that being vulnerable, and maybe this is true in the business world, but we have to consider about our whole world and our whole selves. That we appear weak, that we not appear weak. We're very concerned with not appearing weak. But what I've discovered is that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's actually the doorway to connection. And so power, if what you're seeking is power, then you follow all the rules that are going to give you power. If what you're seeking is connection or presence, then you need to follow an alternate path, because seeking power is not the same path as seeking presence or connection. So you have to get clear on what it is that you want. And different periods of your life may dictate different things. But vulnerability and authenticity really came home for me as to the power of it right during COVID, because right during COVID, I started this group called Right Now Mind. And Right Now Mind is it's still available. It is a free virtual offering. It's what's called free writing, or I call it naked writing. And what that means is that you write to a prompt without thinking or editing. You don't worry about if you're being eloquent or if your grammar or spelling is good. You simply keep your hand moving wherever it wants to go. If it goes somewhere taboo, you just go there. And then in Right Now Mind, the participants share their writings anonymously with other participants. So for one, you have no labels interrupting what writing is coming to you. So you don't know if it's a 64-year-old white male or a 22-year-old Asian girl, whatever, So there's a freshness in the interaction. But what I found was that people saw themselves in other people, because what people ended up sharing often was brilliance would just come out naturally, for sure. I mean, gorgeous phrasing. But often also what came out was our confusion and our not being sure about what's going on or even how we feel or what the next path is. And people just relaxed. It's like, oh, I'm not the only one hiding behind this mask of, yep, got everything together. Everything's great. And a real community formed, even though we didn't see each other, we didn't know who we were. All we had was our authentic words of what was really going on in any moment.
Is that a monthly meetup, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's I offer it about every other month, and it's if you go to Right Now Mind on my website, even if you just put in Right Now Mind, right spelled WRITE, you'll find it on Google or whatever. It tends to be a 4 to 5 week session. Everybody works on their own time frame, and the commitment that I don't require any money, but I require a commitment to show up. And that is, you have to promise that you will do a 10-minute timed writing without looking at the prompt beforehand. And you will offer feedback to 1 or 2 other participants. And the feedback that we're offering is not constructive criticism. It's more, I always say it's more like I'm a rock climber, so it's more like a belayer, the person who's holding the rope and the climber is going up and they're going, you got this, you're doing great, don't worry, I'm here for you. So it's support and encouragement, but it's real. I ask people to find what they find compelling about what somebody else has written, or a phrase that jumps out at them. And if they don't have anything, they just don't offer feedback on that particular one. But I don't think that's ever happened. And there's always something. It's such a powerful practice, not only to write freely like that, but to read what someone else has written, because we have to learn to listen when the messages aren't coming to us completely polished and all, prettied up, when it's just somebody's raw thoughts or experience. So that taught me a huge amount about vulnerability, and my own journey did too. So people relax when somebody before them is not perfect. Because none of us are. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you reminded me. I once heard someone say that you build trust not by offering help, but by asking for help.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
feel like that fits right into what you just said, that because then you show you're vulnerable and you open that door that allows for that connection to be made, which sounds like is kind of what's happening too in the writing group.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's a wonderful way of putting it, really.
Yeah, I like that. You also use writing to heal and not just grow. Can you talk about that?
Sure. I explored this on my own once. Like, why do I write? Right? And
Do you write daily? Sorry, curious.
Yeah. And some periods of my life, I write daily. I am probably writing daily, but not in the same way that I do in other times of my life. Right now, I'm doing a lot of, I don't know, a little bit less sort of journaling type of writing, more deliberate writing, I guess. But for 17 years, I didn't write for others. I quit writing for others, and I only wrote for myself. When I really looked at why I write, even why I have written my books, which are nonfiction books, so that puts a little bit of a different spin on it, probably. But what I discovered was that I don't necessarily write. I thought I wrote because I was bursting with something I had to say, something I had to share. But what I discovered was that I write because it exposes important themes in my own life. It reveals my own conditioning to me. It actually helps reveal me to myself. Um, so it basically, I always say awareness practice and writing are kind of twin flames. So awareness practice teaches you to pay attention to the moment. And writing practice, you have to pay attention to the moment in order to capture it later in writing. And so what maybe isn't obvious is that we have to pay close attention to our own even emotional state, because when we write a character, that's what we're going to be drawing from, is our own experience. So we need to know, what does that feel like in the body? What is that? What is a metaphor for what this feels like that others might relate to? I always say that writing helps me listen deeply.
I love that. You have a blog post on your website entitled My Favorite 5 Lifestyle Hacks for Well-Being. And I appreciated number 3, which was, instead of seeking better answers, ask better questions. And perhaps this goes with your journal prompts for your group or the journaling for yourself. But I was wondering if you could tell us more about that.
Yeah. I think at the heart of this lifestyle hack is what's called in mindfulness, or sometimes spiritual communities, self-discovery. So self-discovery is really the art of asking the right questions to get you to be curious about the answers. And often one of my simpler ways of talking about it, because it can get unsimple, but one of my simplest ways of talking about it is I narrow it down to 3 questions that I say are the right questions to ask. So I call this going on an inner striptease, because the idea is to discover more about yourself. Not what you think you know, not all of the knowledge that you've accumulated over the years, but what's really there underneath it all. And so there's 3 questions. And so one is to come back to your body, because we're so often just up in our mind that a whole lot of our experience, actually where intuition lives, is more embodied than just what we think about. It's less finite than what our thoughts are. So the first question is, what else is here? And this kind of question invites us to, and by that I mean other than our thoughts, to come back to our body. So we use questions to come back to our body, because at least when we're in our senses, we are present to this moment, because the senses don't exist in other moments. So we're more present when we're noticing one of our senses, probably, than when we're thinking. Now, of course, thinking happens in the moment too. It's just that it grabs so much of our attention that we will literally be caught in a story that maybe happens in the future or maybe happened in the past. So what else is here is a good question. Another type of question is to challenge your mind. So instead of trying to always find the best answers, because that's what our brain is always going to want to do. Our brain is wired to, quote unquote, self-improve, to fix what's wrong. But to go deeper in our awareness practice, we need to question our mind, our brain as well. So you can ask the question, and it comes in all different forms, but the simplest one, probably the oldest one, is that so? So, maybe the question is, my husband should have taken out the trash. Is that so? Do I really 100% know for sure that is true? Well, yeah, it's his job, right? But then it gives you a pause and you think, well, I don't know, turns out that he had the worst day ever at work and he's struggling just to show up. And maybe what he really needs is to sit down for 5 minutes. Whatever it is, it opens the door for curiosity, for inquiry, and to get out of our own rigid thinking. So you question your own mind. Is that so? With everything. Every single place where you are suddenly noticing a moment of suffering that's tied to a particular thought, it's an opportunity to question that thought. Challenge your mind. And then the third one is the biggest one of all. And that's where the question is, who or what am I really? So we kind of think we know who we are. We appear to be like this skin vessel that holds these thoughts and values or whatever, that's who we are, kind of our personality bounded by the skin, carrying our thoughts and values around. But you can do a little scientific experiment and investigate that a little bit. And my favorite question to ask, that's a subset of that one, is, where do I start and where do I end? And you can just do a little 5-minute meditation and you're just sitting on your chair. You can notice, let's say you have your hands clasped. You can just notice your fingers and wonder, am I aware of where, without looking with my eyes, am I aware of where one finger starts and the other ends? Can I tell where the chair starts, where I start and the chair starts? And then you start to have this sense that, wait a second, do I end at the boundary of my skin? Why does it sort of feel like I kind of exist beyond that? What is that? And if I do, how far does that go? It's just a little bit of curiosity about what seems on its surface to be obvious.
I love that. And though when you were talking, I was like, where am I leaking? Like, where am I putting myself where I shouldn't be?
Oh, yes. Where am I leaking?
When you kind of take over and tell somebody else what to do, and you really should be staying in your own lane and not worrying so much. I think that might be my lesson for today. Well, wonderful. Is there anything else you would like to add to our conversation?
No, I hope people will contact me. It's easy to reach me. My website is just my first name and last name. I know it's a mouthful, but hopefully you'll put it up.
Oh, absolutely. I'll include all the links in the show notes.
Yeah. Find me, reach out to me, look into Right Now Mind. I have a lot of free offerings. If you're moved to, pick up a copy of my book. Let me know what you think. There's just 10-minute practices. My invitation to everybody is to stop looking for perfection that is seamless and never ending, and instead pay attention to the 10-second moments of delight that are spread throughout your day, no matter what is going on.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and for sharing your wisdom with us. I appreciate this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on Intuitive Wisdom. If this episode brought you clarity or inspiration, please take a moment to leave a 5-star review. It truly helps others find this space. And if someone you love, you could use a shift in energy, share this episode with them. You never know what might resonate. For more, explore my frequency reset service, tune into more episodes, or begin the journey through my book, all at deliciousease.com. That's DELICIOUSEASE.com. All right, until next time, trust your energy, honor your space, and keep coming home to yourself.